Hi, everyone. It's Andrea from the Bold, Brave, and in Business podcast. This podcast is powered by Women with Altitude, and welcome to season 2. My guest today is occupational therapist Stephanie Ford from Action Forward. Stephanie has been a therapist for almost 20 years, and her experience is working with complex disability, neurodivergence, and trauma. She's known for taking on cases that other didn't or couldn't, and she built her career around creative and practical solutions that really make a difference and change lives. Her business began as a way to support her growing family and to create flexibility, but over time it evolved alongside her own journey and through burnout, shifting priorities, and now has a deeper understanding of how people function day to day. She's not just working in disability, she actually now works with small businesses and corporate and people in teams, sharing her expertise through mentoring, consulting, and education. She's got a really simple but powerful message, and that's to help people understand how their brain and body work. We had a great conversation today all around executive function, burnout, understanding our cycles and the impacts on our workday. There were some really great themes like task analysis that you'll hear us talk about, and I hope you'll enjoy as much as I enjoyed talking to Stephanie. Welcome, Stephanie. It's so good to see you from Action Forward. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm looking forward to our chat today, mainly because I've seen you present and you've done some things in our community and you're just so on point and resonate with so many people and you've got a beautiful vibrancy. So welcome to our podcast. We're going to have a good chat today.
Great.
Now, you started your business to support your family. So how has that evolved alongside that over the years? Because a lot of us, we all laugh when people say, "Oh, I started my business to get more time," and everyone goes, you know.
Yes.
And now it's like, "Oh, I started so I could have some more time and flexibility with my family," and we kind of go. So, what was your experience like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my business, well, it would now be almost 15 years. My eldest is about to turn 15. So I was in a government department, still had great flexibility, but I also at the time had a shift working husband. And so for me, the prospect of that, like he might be on shift all weekend while I then had to be at work. And as a family, I could really see that that was going to make a really big impact on our family dynamic.
Yeah.
So
Shift work is
really
hard.
yeah, absolutely. It's a very different lifestyle. And so for me, it was around being able to have, as we say, laughing, flexibility, but it was around being able to make choices on how and when I worked to mean that if he had 5 days off in the work week, I could actually work because I also didn't have to worry about childcare.
Yes.
So it did allow that adaptability. It also brought connection because when my son was then at home with him, then I could be working. But if he was on shift a week, then I knew I could make that a mum week. So
Yeah.
it
Okay.
allowed to mean that it had flexibility, I guess, in a way that we can choose how we work and when we work, and then it can fit with our family needs.
But did you have to adapt? Like, what did you have to adapt? Probably is more the question, like, of how you do that. Because a lot of women that I talk to, like, they're just getting the kids to bed and then they're just like working all night or they're just
Yeah.
working. And that's why
You're
they're
already.
dancing so closely with burnout and they're carrying so much and their nerves are frayed because they're just missing sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. It has evolved a lot. I left that relationship. I have a new relationship. I've had another baby. So in running my business, it's certainly gone through a real change and its journey through our life as a family. So for me, I think big thing has been around boundaries, but also it's work. So when do we fit work in and allowing ourselves the opportunity and the time, just like everyone else does for our own business, doesn't mean we have to mean that it's not as important as turning up to work when someone else's business. Because if you're an employee, you turn up because that's when people expect you to. When it's our own business, we don't put that expectation on ourselves all the time. I just fix it in after bed rather than I have work to do and it's valuable. So I will either get the kids with the grandparents or put them into a place, a daycare or a play group And then that gives me work time.
Yeah, yeah. Because it's just almost virtually impossible when they're around and you're on mum duty. Like in terms of focus and, and obviously age and circumstance comes into it, but you're constantly, in terms of your attention, it's completely being pulled out of it, right? So the quality of the work, then maybe it's the adapting is also light duties in that, like answering a quick email or a couple of little things that you can do. If you've got people that you've got to give direction to, you can quickly give direction to and then go back to what you were doing. But it's hard though, right? So I
For
love
sure.
what you're saying. You were saying set aside specific times, utilize daycare or, don't get into the habit of doing it, at nighttime when people go to bed. But that's what we do because people go, well, I can't afford to go to, put my kids in care or whatever it might be. Then, then maybe look at the model of what you're working because maybe you can adapt it during holidays or, you're not around as much or you don't have as many clients on those days or weeks or something like that. I do know someone who engineered her business so that she had 2 weeks off every time it was school holidays so she could be with the kids. But it didn't look like her business was closed. She was just booked out
Yeah.
during that time, but actually had more clients before and after to make up for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right in the sense of picking the task. So, like, often we hear in business and in work world, time management and prioritization. But I also do think it's really around our task management in the sense of what is possible when. Like, I know for me as a clinician, trying to write detailed reports, I have learnt, does not work in school holidays because, as you said, I know that I need to sit and I need to focus. And when I have the kids in the background, and I now have older kids, I have teenager and primary school child, they will entertain themselves, but I'm not focused. I'm not able to just focus. So I know that my brain is working in overtime, even if it's
Mm.
just being alert that they're there. It's different, and as you say, so it's being aware of when in the day and how in the day you can manage the tasks in your business. Then kind of that ticks into my OT brain going, task analyze. What are the tasks you need to do in your business? And then, like lots of business advice, then time block. So if this is the tasks I have in my business, when is the best time to do each of those?
Yeah, no, I love that you just said task analyze. I just love those two words together. That's really cool.
And that's what I do all day, every day. But
Right.
we often forget to break down what is it that I need to do and
Well,
how do
I would say we're not analyzing the tasks. We're just literally just listing them and writing lists and thinking of them as a job lot or as we're not actually analyzing what the task involves. Like what you just said then, so many people would go, oh, the kids are entertaining themselves. I'll be fine, not recognizing their own level the way that you just described. It's your distraction. It's not even the kid's distraction.
Yeah.
And also, when they are entertaining themselves, inadvertently someone falls on their head
They
and
argue over
they
something.
argue and you got to
They
break it up.
argue
Yeah,
over
yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
And so, like, as you said, like for me, I've had to learn that when my kids are home in the holidays and afternoons is not when I plan to write hard reports.
yeah,
It's a great time to do emails. It's a great time to do my socials and my marketing plans because I can come and go from those things.
yeah, yeah,
It's not when I sit down, I can make phone calls because I can say that it's just certain people to go, the kids are in the background. But,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
not planning to make meetings, not planning to do big reports. So really understanding ourselves and our business roles and responsibilities and when we can block those times appropriately to be most productive.
Yeah, I just love the whole phrase of task analyzed. Like, I think anyone listening to this would be, right, yeah, actually analyzing my tasks, like how much focus. How many people do you talk to? I know, said to me, or I've said this, you go to do a task that's on your list and it takes so much longer than what you allocated because
Yeah.
we're not really giving ourselves enough time. We're not analyzing the way that you have suggested. And everyone needs to tack on more time. So if they think they're just going to do, I'm just going to allocate 20 minutes for emails, you better make it at least an hour.
Sure.
20 minutes ain't going to cut it.
It takes you 20 minutes. It's only because you've got to the first couple and not the end of the unread list.
So we've talked before outside of the podcast around burnout. What were your experiences with burnout? What did it look like for
Yeah. So
you?
for me, I probably would identify I probably got there twice.
Okay.
I didn't go to the business in burnout. I went to the business because of change in the disability world, which is very prominent right now. So it's kind of changing back to where it was 10 years ago. God forbid. It was that it was changing and it worked for my family timing. Probably about ooh, it's after COVID because I went okay through COVID. I could just do everything as I'd always done. Probably 2023. For me, it became that I was ready to just stop doing what I do. So for me, I got so exhausted by it and had kept on going so much without the right boundaries, without the right mindset and plan that
So,
I
so
was ready
just
to walk
so
away.
take me back there for a second. You said you're ready to walk away. You didn't have boundaries. Talk to me about, like, share with us what did the week look like? Give us an example. So, because I think we've got to break it down a little bit because these buzzwords now are just becoming white noise. Oh yeah, burnout. Yeah. But what
Yeah.
is it? What did your days and weeks look like in
Yeah. I
2023?
think for me, then it's a really great question. I probably now just see it as a whole time frame. I think for me, it was a lot more than what I do now of fitting other people in and not maintaining what I needed first. So
Ah,
for me as a community therapist, that meant that people would be like, oh, can you see me at this time of the day on these days? And I would in my mind have gone, oh, I'm not available. However, I'd squeeze them in. And so then I'd be juggling the childcare and I'd be juggling the shared care and then I'd be juggling dinner and I'd be pushing the limits of the pickup and the probably a toddler and a hungry toddler, but still getting home from work and really putting things too close together and too much of a fine line.
oh, so you were hurtling. You were
Oh,
doing what I call hurtling. It's real hurtle. Like, you're not just rushed. You're literally hurtling yourself around, you know, to make the deadlines to do the pickup. Oh my God, it's nearly the deadline to pick up the kid from daycare. And yes,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. And then I think I was probably, as you said, I was doing the late hours. I was doing the emails because I was filling my time in the day hours to see the people, but I didn't
Mm, mm.
therefore give myself blocked time to do the business stuff and also then the admin stuff.
Oh,
So for me,
yeah.
it's report writing and it's emails and it's correspondence because I would fill my day with people, which is what I love and it's what work is about, but it doesn't mean the other stuff doesn't have to happen. And so I think I was, yeah, hurtling and then also still going
Hurling yourself from here to there,
and then keeping on trying to keep going. And so for
pushing
me,
through it.
yeah. And so for me, I then
So
decided
common.
that I was just going to stop doing OT altogether and I was going to go and, for me, I was like, I can go and work I had some individuals I was working with clinically who couldn't find support workers. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be a support worker. I'll pick who I work with and I will load their house with their firewood and I'll make them chicken soup and I will write notes that everyone think you're incredible because there'll be nothing compared to what to do for clinical notes. But as a staff member, you can just turn up, write great notes and come home.
Yeah.
And that's what I decided in my head was a better option because I couldn't see that there was an in between. I think
Mm,
that burnout, I think, response for me was that I got so far exhausted by what I was doing.
mm.
See that it could be a little different. I just need to ditch it altogether and go to something
Well, because something that you previously loved or love is actually, it's draining you. You're burnt out. You're running on empty. And so therefore there's nowhere to go but kind of to start resenting the one thing that you actually love.
yeah,
And that's a hard lesson to learn, like, to realize that. Oh, hang on a second, I'm hating this. And I think over time, I'm sure there's a lot of people who've left, creative projects, small businesses that were potentially good for them and that filled their soul, but because they were at burnout and didn't know how to reprogram.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
how did you learn the boundaries? What did you do? Well, how did you
Yeah,
get back? Because you're still
yeah.
going. That's
I'm
something you
still
did.
going.
You know that.
I think at the end of last year, I similarly got to a point where I was ready to walk away. And I'm ready to walk away from a part of my business now, again, because it's thing, but I've got a very different awareness now. I know what is exhausting me and I hate about a part of that. I know what I love and I know the positive things that are still possible, which I think
Mhm.
I have the first time I was in burnout.
Yes,
This-
yes.
When I've hit burnout, I've had different things around me and I now have a different plan. But in answer to what are the boundaries? So for me, as I mentioned earlier, it's that I had to really put in place this is work time and this is not work time
Okay.
for me and for my kids. Because I think the other part of it is like lots of women in business, we end up with either by our subconscious or conscious, we get the mum guilt. And so then there was that element of I'm not
Yes.
here for my kids, I'm not available, I'm stressed. So for me, I decided that I was not available after school hours. And if that didn't suit my clients, then I wasn't the right therapist for them. And there are lots
Yes.
out there. And I think the hard part probably also is if you're fairly new in business, always got that thought process on I need to say yes because I need the business to come in and then I can make choices.
Yes.
And
Yep.
that's absolutely true. We've all been there.
Yep.
Thing is knowing when you need to then rein in that yes when it's in the benefit of the end client and not yourself.
Yep.
So you can
Yep.
still say yes. And one line that I had a supervisor tell me that I think I has changed things for me, and also I tell anybody who wants to listen, is that it's not that I wasn't available, that my diary didn't have availability.
Oh, that's a good one.
And then the
I'm gonna
psychology
write
of
that
my knowledge
down.
comes in that if I say to people, I don't have availability, human nature is that people will go, oh, I can convince them and I can change their thoughts or I can tap into their emotions and then they'll find the time for me.
Yeah.
And we create a distance between us as a person and them as a person. And we put a physical thing in between of there's no availability in my diary. People go, cannot make there to be availability in the diary, can I? Like
Yes.
the other one I have had, which for me as a clinician, like we had periods where we have lots of urgency. Can you do that in like within the next couple of weeks? And so then at the first burnout, I'd be trying to jam things in and squeeze in where I didn't really have time because it was urgent. And then I learned to say, my next availability in my diary is in 6 weeks. And they'd be like, oh, that's the earliest you can do that. That'd be great. I'm like,
Mm.
I had to bust my ass to put you in 2 weeks because that was where I felt like I had to. But when I said to someone, the next appointment is in 6 weeks, again, they couldn't make me make more time in my diary because
Yes.
there's no appointments
Rather
left.
than saying, "Oh, let me see what I've got. Oh, I'll
Yes.
see what I can find at times."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
like
then
putting a
you have that
third it's putting it into a
emotional,
third place. I love that.
so
The
then your
psychology of that
emotional extension and that
completely
emotion
works.
tap into you. What
Yes.
physical, this is my availability. The next appointment that's free is this. And the reality is we do it now electronically. Like my son's been sick for 2 days. And so we've jumped on in the mornings to try and get him a doctor's appointment. And, there's nothing till the next day. And we're like, well, there's nothing available. Don't
Yes, people are
push
now
it.
yes, they
Yep.
are. They've "Here's my calendar. You wanna make a time? Yep, let's make a time to meet. Here's my calendar." Yeah, and I love that because and sometimes you don't find a time or someone said to me yesterday, we are trying to organize a time. It's like, "Oh, I'm really busy at the moment." And I'm like, "I'll book it in advance in for 3 months if you need to, because she said, "Oh, you're so busy." It's like, "Yes, but I'm only busy because my calendar book's up." And it doesn't mean that I'm too busy to see you. It just means that are you willing to be in advance, right? Because I love in advance because then it's locked in and as long as it's in my diary, I'll be there and I have time, you know?
That's
You talk a lot about understanding how you function and
Mhm.
executive function, and you talk about sensory processing. How do these show up in business and daily life? There's a lot of discussion around this at the moment, and it's not really now just in the disability space. More and more women are getting diagnosed with ADHD and attention. There's a lot of pushback and stuff around that. But, I definitely recognize certain things in myself from things that
Mhm.
you've talked about. So, can you walk us through a little bit of that?
Yeah, sure. And I think it is amazing that we're talking about it and that even in leadership, it's more that people have an awareness and a consideration of that now. So, in the sense of sensory processing and executive functioning, I often say to people, we all have individual differences in how we process our world. Sure, and that's how we're designed. How we also then respond to our world is going to be different.
So so when you say we're all different in how we process the world, what
Mhm.
does that mean? What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So, like, somebody will notice a noise in the background, and somebody else won't have even registered that noise.
Gotcha.
Some
Okay.
people will notice some people are affected by a really bright light, and other people, the sun's out, the lights are on.
Yeah.
So, what we have is also then, we're also, how we process is such a big puzzle. And it's a topic that I can talk on for hours
Yes.
because it's so many pieces of a puzzle. So how we process the world is also going to be affected about how we've slept, how well we're nutritioned, what our life experiences are, because then we're going to have trauma or we're going to have natural behavioral responses because that's how we've learnt, but also how we've become accustomed to responding. So our executive functioning then is down the line of all of these things because it creates how safe, how comfortable, and how alert we are in the environment we sit in or we work in.
Okay. Okay.
And so, in the sense of executive functioning, it can be around how much we notice, how much we feel like we can keep on focus around it. We've started something, but our environment and do the things that are happening around us get overwhelming that we lose track of what we're doing?
Oh,
So,
that happens to me all the time.
and it's so variable for every individual, often variable depending on the environment. And it also can be variable on the day because if we talk about, we're all like, lots of people are in small business, but if we talk about being in the classroom, well, we've been in classrooms, we have lots of us have children in classrooms. If that classroom's really noisy and there's lots of kids moving around, that teacher might think that's a productive environment. But some of those kids may not actually have heard the instruction. They may not be able to process or bring out from their thinking what they're needing to do because their sensory processing a natural survival response. So their brain is going to be paying attention to every child who's moving around the classroom and every noise that somebody's making across the classroom. And so, therefore, our executive functioning to keep on completing a task lowers because our brain is always going to function in a safety and survival response.
Okay.
And so, if our sensory processing doesn't feel safe, then it's going to alert us to make sure we're being safe and we're keeping our zone safe. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. And it certainly makes sense in a classroom situation. What about, though, people who are working solo? Are you talking about things like distractions, like working? So, this is why, listening and concentration music and things is working
Mhm.
really well because it's about understanding what your optimal is. It about really setting up optimal systems that will
Yeah.
help work for you? Yeah.
Absolutely. And so we were even talking this week in one of the chapter meetings around one of the presenters was talking about different ways of working. And so we were talking around that some people it's going to be like having a Pomodori response and where you've got your this is your working time and this is your
Oh,
5.
the Pomodoro method. Yeah, right. So they go, okay, I'm going to work for 20 minutes on
Yes.
this.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so we were talking about for some people, that's really productive. They know that's what they're going to do. They can focus. And then we were talking about for other people, if being pressured and having to meet deadlines is something that actually is quite a stressful response, then that can actually be counterproductive. They said they're going, I've got to make sure I get this done. I've got to make sure I get this done. And we're going, and then their brain is not actually calm and feeling safe to then get in and do their work.
What about people, though, the actual deadline helps them to focus and then they smash it out? Because it's
Absolutely.
me.
Yeah. And so so that's where sensory processing, executive functioning, and all of those things, it's so much about having an awareness and the knowledge on how we work, why we work like that, and then having strategies to go, this is valuable and productive for me.
Right.
Because I think the hard part is that there's lots of information out there. There's lots of suggestions, but often it's a bit cookie cutter. If you're ADHD, you should use these strategies, which are great starters and are great ideas. But if we don't understand ourselves yet, it makes it hard to know which strategies are going to be most productive for us.
Yeah, because then they tend to start to be that cookie cutter and all of those clickbaity type things
Mhm.
and TikToks around, oh, if you have ADHD, do this, or if you found this. But yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean it works for everybody. Yeah.
No.
So
And I
we
think as
just
part of
about,
it, it's
sorry, you
not
go.
going to work every week. And so for a group of business women, it's possibly not going to work in PMS week because our hormones are going to meet our processing and our sensory responses are different. Being
Yes.
stressed because the kids have lost it or whatever, there's stress going on with the kids and we're trying to manage and support them and we're emotionally drained, then it's going to be different.
Yeah,
So that
right.
the other
And
part
that
is
and that happens, right? Oh,
all
this
the
didn't
time.
work last week. Why isn't it working now? Right.
Yeah.
And then we throw the baby out with the bathwater and we think, oh, stuff it, I won't do that again.
Yeah.
But actually it could just be the cycle that you're in. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
It
really
could
good
just
point.
be the week. It could be the day. And so for me, I often talk about having a tool bag of strategies because sometimes that tool will work and sometimes it won't. And it's not that we don't have other, we need to make sure we've got options of tools to use to match what we're needing at the time, which is why it comes back to a better awareness and understanding. So then we can pick the tool that's going to be most valuable for us.
And you know what? I've just had one of those, brain explosion emoji moments. Whereas I think we're looking for strategies, but we're looking for strategies that then we try and repeat every single day, like you said. Because one of the questions I was going to ask you is what's some one simple way someone can start designing their workday to suit how their brain actually works? But it just occurred to me that's not necessarily what you do every day. So not just different tools, it's actually almost different designs of days, right? Would be better. But I think
Yep.
we approach things, we're looking for a strategy so I can sit here like a machine and smash things out and get things done.
Yep.
And every day that I come to work. But it, oh my God, I just had that moment of like, why are we trying to design or find systems that we repeat every single day
Yep.
when sometimes we're just not feeling it, all of the other things that happen.
Yep. So I often will talk with people and we work through and often we talk about a kind of a traffic light because it's often a really easy concept people use. But, when I'm feeling good and things are working, these are the tools that are really valuable. These are things that help me. But if I'm a bit off and I feel like this, these are the tools that are most effective in that moment. And
Okay.
if it's a real shit day and I don't want to do anything, these are the things that actually could help me get back down towards productivity. Because
Oh,
linking that what I feel and how I'm functioning and what can I do to mean I can make it easier. Because for me, I often talk to people about we want to find ways that we can easily function. And I'm often involved because things are hard and they're tricky. And
Mm.
it's the tricky, but what's the strategy and the tool that we can use to help ease that a little bit?
And what you're saying applies to so many areas of life. Like
Yeah.
yesterday, I was at a Thrive Through Change conference in Canberra, and it was all around menopause, perimenopause, as our estrogen lowers as women, all the
Mm.
things that that affects. And it was a similar thing because we're not a cookie cutter, not everybody gets a hot flush. Not everybody, and so it's actually, and again, we're looking for patterns and we're looking for connectivity because we want to find solutions. But really, the lens that we should be looking through anything and what even just our work day is what is going to work for me, what works for me. And now, and in those three veins that you said it. So, what works for me on a good day? What works for me on a day where I'm struggling to get motivated? And then what works for me on a completely shit day? And then that situation like that is slam your computer down and go for a walk is now because you're just not going to do anything anyway, right? And you want to
Absolutely.
disrupt the energy of the shit.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
have to say, like that similarly, like I've had a fairly ordinary morning this morning and I'm ready to throw the towel in with the bath water, maybe into
Yeah.
the bath water. And
Yes.
so for me, like I left and I went and made a coffee. I've had a similar conversation with a naturopath around even looking at like where in the month we're looking at which tools do we use because like we were talking about hormones and she's like, all right, well, let's create a strategy for that particular week because that's where things are going and that's where the hormones are doing different stuff. And so it's a similar concept. You know, I knew that we were doing this today and I love this. And so I've done a couple of things in the beginning after my coffee and walking out of my office ready to throttle someone. And, I will finish. I've done a couple of positive things that made me excited and positive and felt good. I'm doing this. And then, I can probably then do the other tasks that I really wanted to get done today, but when I sat here hours ago, there was not a chance that was going to happen. I looked at the screen and went, I really need to get this done. And it
And I
just,
really don't want to.
nothing,
Yeah. Yeah.
nothing came at me. It just didn't work. And so rather than pushing through, I looked and went, nah, I'll do this later. I'll go for a similar. I will go for a walk and then hopefully it will just all come together later because it's looking at what is your need in the moment.
Yes.
The more we
Yeah.
understand that. So
And
like at one point recently, I'm never like a working and watching TV person, but I was pulling my feet through the mud and I was like, you know what? I don't actually want to do any of this. I want to go and sit on the lounge. And so my compromise was I've worked out how to get 9 now on my screen on my computer so I could have my report on one screen and I had my lifestyle show that I just is my calming show on the other screen. So I didn't
yes.
really watch it, but it
A
created
friend of mine who works
calming.
with people all day, and
Yeah,
her calm and her wind down is just being on Netflix and just having, musical shows or whatever on. It's just she just doesn't have to think, and
yeah,
it helps her wind down.
yeah.
And everybody's different, right? Some people go
Mhm.
for a run. I
And
think that's one of the things that we have. There's traditional systems. Like I sometimes wish I could go back to school with some of the knowledge that I have now because I didn't understand or know how to study, right? I didn't feel like anyone taught me how to study or someone suggested how to study and I tried it and it just didn't work for me. Little did I know that there was different ways that you could study and things like that. So, I thought that I was broken. And I think that's what happens is that traditional systems don't work for people. You're not broken. It's just that your brain's working differently, right?
absolutely.
So, what's one thing that you wish more people understood about how their brain and body affect their businesses?
I think that probably it's that we can make our businesses fit us.
Mm.
We have to fit into a business structure.
Wow.
We started talking in our conversations in Women with Altitude conversations around that we can have business systems because somebody says this is a really great system and it's really simple and it's really streamlined. And that's wonderful. However, does that system make sense to you? Does that work for you? because it could be really streamlined, but it feels really clunky to you. So, and same with other people will have how they respond, or, the business process or strategy would say, good business practice would do this.
Hmm.
And what if that's like the most uncomfortable thing? Like, you need to make sure you make phone calls and you respond to people. And that sends somebody into a fight flight response because they can't stand talking to unfamiliar people. But once they know someone, they're okay.
Hmm.
So
So then we'll
finding
be
what works
finding
for
strategies that would
you.
work for them. Yeah, yeah.
Right. So, you might have a VA or an EA who does the initial phone call, sets them all up because that's your absolute nightmare. Once they're in person with you and you feel comfortable, then you can make following phone calls.
Yes.
So it's setting
Yes.
up your business in a way that works for you and not against you. Because I
Yeah.
think in back, like, in tying that to where we started, it allows you to maintain your interest and your passion for what you're doing and your business. Because if you're turning up in your business and if it's at night and it's not in regular hours, because that's what you're choosing to be your blocks of time for your business, you want to enjoy it. You don't want to haul ass through it because then you're going to really struggle to do it. And then we're going to head into burnout much sooner and much faster.
Yeah. Nice. What is one small change that anyone listening to this could make this week to better support their function, how they function?
Oh, I think it would be around taking notice
Yeah,
of
I was
what
going to say, like,
you do.
maybe logging, like where
Yeah.
you're, it's so interesting at the moment. Cycles are really popping up for me because one of our lovely members has got a seed cycle app and business. And, the tides are governed by the cycles of the moon. And it's like, why do people think, like, why as humans are we any different? The
Oh,
waxing and waning of, the energy in the daytime and how people are naturally night owls, or, all of those things, it's all cyclic, but I think we're responding to also what's happening out in the world too. And paying more attention, right? Paying more attention would be one thing we could do, right? To see where, understand ourselves more about where, um,
notice and be aware
yeah.
because I think that's the thing. Sometimes we just take it as this is what, and
Mm,
that happens. But when
mm.
we take a little step back and we do a bit of self reflection, sometimes we're like, oh, that's kind of what happens. Like when, this happens in the morning, this is what the day rolls like.
Yeah, because I had this challenge around post-pandemic information, like, of work spaces. Like, we're recording this on Zoom. A lot of people now are negotiating some time, working from home as well as working in the office. And then they come out with all of these statistics about productivity, and it's losing all this money, and then businesses are getting, enticing people with bonuses for coming into the office, when I think that the whole thing came from where people discovering that it really worked for them to work in a quieter environment. And are people really, I mean, maybe some people are taking the piss and doing the work. But for me, or for those that, if they're looking at what their function is, it really works for them to work in quiet. They can concentrate better. They enjoy their job more. They can get more done.
Well, and the
And
other part of it
integrating that a
is,
couple of days a week and then having a couple of days in the office, it makes total sense to me.
yeah. And then we've got the other side where some people it's about the quiet and others would say that actually they are most productive sitting on their lounge with their dog next to them and the music blaring
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because that's when they are most productive. But they can't do that in an office. They can't sit on lounge on the lounge and they can't
No.
have music
And
playing.
and also adjacent to that is the people who would love being in the office and are thriving from the office environment and working too, and they're all back in the office. But there's got to be a bit of an acceptance when the media are also pumping out that it's wrong. Anyway, it's just an interesting thing because it kind of made me think of it because of what we're talking about.
Yeah. So I
Now
think
I could talk with you about this for hours.
absolutely. And I think there, even that, it's about noticing and being aware of what is most valuable and what works for you to mean you're most productive, you feel most comfortable to be productive, because that's going to mean that you can get your business flowing, you can have good positivity, you can have good outcomes. and you can also enjoy what you're doing,
Yeah. Yeah.
which means you keep going for longer.
So there's been some really great takeaways, I think, today. Task analysis is a really big thing I wrote down. I was just like, and that third party of the diary, it's like, oh, the diary showing there's no space until this time
Yeah.
is taking you out of the equation. So you're not bending, you're not
Mm.
trying to be a tree and bend, and having that tool bag of strategies, and not every day needs to be the same. It's been a really cool conversation. You do amazing work, Stephanie. If you would like to work with Stephanie or know more about what she does working with people in the disability sector, we're going to put some links into today's podcast and you can reach out and connect with Stephanie. She's lovely. She'll return your call or she'll message at the
And also
right
disability space.
time within boundaries.
That's right, with that. I do the disability space, but also in business. So
And in
broadly,
business.
business, in leadership and team cohesion, because it's also
Yes. Yes.
teams understanding each other. We've got so many more
Very
people in
much so.
businesses and we work alongside. So absolutely understanding ourselves, but also as businesses and families, understanding each other. So I do business mentoring and also family mentoring to mean that we can expand that value and understanding and mean that your whole world is a little more cohesive and understanding.
Awesome. Well, thank you for chatting with us today and being on the podcast. And as I said, we'll put notes and we'll see you again soon. Thanks everybody for listening.
Thanks so much.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.
Welcome.